Hello, my name is Manny Alvarez, president of Kolstein Music.
And my name is Barry Kolstein, Senior Creative Consultant for the Kolstein Violin Shop.
We wanted to hop on and share with you an update about the Kolstein's Musicians Relief Fund. We want to give you an overview of what we've accomplished so far and what the vision is for the future.
Because of your support, we were able to raise over $16,000. Thank you so much for your donations. 100% of these funds went to over 60 musicians.
We have had over 25 performances over the course of the 7 months during the peak of COVID. We're so happy that with your support, we were able to pay musicians to perform where in many cases there was no venue to do this in. Musicians would come to the Kolstein's venue located in Baldwin, New York, where a small team would film, monitor sound, and work computers to allow performers to do what they do best.
We are so excited to present to you the Kolstein's Musicians Relief Fund Living Room Series, done in honor of the LaFaro family. Helene and Manny Fernandez have so graciously donated in Scott LaFaro's name to the fund because they believe in our vision and in supporting musicians during these trying times. We're so happy to hear the musicians are slowly starting to go back to work. However, they still need our support.
Yeah. The Living Room Series will have musicians from all around the world submitting a self-recorded video which we will edit and air. They will be paid $200 for the performance. We have an exciting lineup coming and once again are asking for your support.
100% of these funds donated will go directly to the musicians performing in the LaFaro Living Room Series. We look forward to continuing our efforts assisting musicians. Please partner with us today.
Thank you so much for listening and for your continued support.
You grew up in Norway.
Yep.
Right, obviously.
Yeah.
So what was your first exposure to music in general?
In general, it was, I think when I was about 10, 11, I heard Bill Haley, rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed with the saxophone solos. Not so much with the music itself, but the saxophone solos really, I thought was great. A little later, I heard Les Young, and I was amazed how he could play all those notes on the blues. And I got the guitar when I was 12. I got the guitar for Christmas. And I played with my brother who played accordion. He's 3 years older than me. So I just somehow got into the late 50s, Elvis Presley, Tommy Steele, pop rock, and then with Benny Goodman and Les Young. I heard that on a friend's record player, and I just started to want to try to play different notes than just the melody on my guitar, you know. So that's called improvising, I guess.
Yeah. And did you know at the time, like, what those other notes were?
Not really, not really. The left hand of an accordion they built the same as the cycle of fifth.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned the cycle of fifth by reading my brother's left hand when he played accordion, and I was always sitting on his side. So he was like you play in C major. When he went 4 up, I knew it was an E7.
Mm.
And then an A minor,
Yeah.
and D. So I learned the cycle of fifth from the left hand of accordion.
Wow. That's very cool.
I don't think that's normal, but that's how I got into it. Then I started to learn the notes a little more, but no teacher, nothing.
I know you played, obviously you played guitar, so why did you switch to bass?
We had a band. I was like 15, 16 years old, and I played guitar. I got an electric guitar, and we actually I played guitar in the band. And the bass player, he wanted to only play cello. He played in an orchestra, so he only practiced cello. So he got blisters when we played like three sets for weddings.
Yeah.
He got blisters. So he asked me if I could play the last set, you know. So then we played like some piano bass drums. So I played the bass out of the four deepest string on the guitar.
Yeah.
And just you know, I felt it was nice to play. So we played some kind of Oscar Peterson type piano trio. And one afternoon we were gonna go to a gig, and he said, "Arild, could you play the bass all night tonight? I haven't practiced, you know, and I'm not in for it." So actually, then from there on, I just played the bass. I bought his bass for $40.
Oh my God.
I still have the bass. It's in fact a good Czechoslovakian bass. And then we started to play like piano bass drums. So I just started to practice the bass and play, with whoever I could play with around, you know. It's very local. We're just outside Oslo, you know. It's very local thing. So that's how it went.
like locally around you, was there like the jazz bass? Was there someone already like playing jazz bass, like someone you could that you either studied with or that you could go watch?
Not really. I went to the jazz club here in Oslo called Metropole, and they let me in even I was only 16. They knew I should be 18, but they said if you don't drink alcohol, we can let you in, you know. And I would go there and hear some of those Norwegian bass players in the early 60s. One very good one called Erik Amundsen, and some other ones. And I remember I saw a video when we got to television in 1962 or something. I saw a video with Jolly Rogers band with Gary Peacock on bass, and that knocked me completely out.
Yeah.
I'd never heard any bass at that time. I bought some records. I heard more music, but the way he pronounced every note, you could hear every note, even the recordings from those days. You could hear every note, and what he played on standards was really, I really got so amazed, you know, over that television. And now I saw somebody tips me, and it's actually on YouTube now, so you can watch it. You can find Jolly Rogers from about 1962, and that bass playing with Gary Peacock at the time was amazing.
Oh,
So
wow.
that sort of made me wanna try to play the bass, and also wanna try to make the bass audible. You know, that I was very, you know, aware of the bass should sort of be very audible is the best word I
Yeah.
can find. Yeah.
Yeah, present, the sound present, melody. So when you heard Gary Peacock,
Mm.
did you? What did you do to try and sound like that? To try and have a sound? Were you studying with a teacher? Were you just listening to more records?
No, I didn't. I just listened to records, and a little later, I actually went to a teacher that worked in the Oslo Philharmonic, but then we're about some years later. But you know, in Norway, they don't teach the simandl fingerings. They use the Swedish what's it called? You know, you play with your third finger instead of like
Oh
first,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
second, and fourth. They
yeah,
play like that, you know.
yeah,
And I had seen. I bought a book of Ray Brown
yeah,
bass method, and I saw his fingering, how he spread his fingers, you know.
yeah,
And I thought, I don't want to learn that other stuff. I want to do like Ray Brown do and Gary Peacock and those people I could start seeing on television and stuff, you know. So I didn't take many lessons with him. And then there was a Czechoslovakian bass player coming to Norway, playing in the Philharmonic Orchestra, and I managed to get some lessons from him. And he was a student of Porsta. This is the same teacher as Miroslav Vitos and George
yeah,
Mraz. So he had that simandl kind of technique, you know, which I wanted to learn. And I also wanted to learn the German bow.
yeah.
Because in Norway they only played the Gulbrandsen is that school with the third finger, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and also they play French bow in Norway. So I wanted to be more like the American heroes, you know.
Yeah, you wanted to be different. Yeah.
Yeah. So then actually talking about the sound, Gary Carr came to a workshop with this first teacher of mine, and then he played some pizzicato, but he played with the thumb,
Mm-hmm.
pushing the string away from him and not pulling it towards him. And
Yeah.
then he pushed the strings towards the fingerboard, and he got such a sustain. I was saying, how can that be? And then I figure out if I play the bass, not pulling the string to the side, but pull it slightly into the fingerboard.
Uh-huh.
It gets a less bumpy touch, a bumpy start sound, you know. And when you take down that bump, sort of bump, then the sustain will be closer to the actual setting the sound, you know.
Yeah.
That's going to make the bass sing. Then you get the softer attack, but you get the sustain closer to the attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clean
And
sound.
also by setting the string down into the fingerboard more. I see some bass players, you know, they play so hard and they play sideways.
Yeah.
Like his name. Well, this guy says you're not supposed to play the string like you shoot with the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
You know, it's not bang, not that, but dum dum. And I got this book of Rufus Reed. It says the bass is supposed to sound like boom boom, not boom boom boom. But I know it's a personal thing, and now a lot of people like that more short sound. That's okay with it. They go back to gut strings and whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, that sustained kind of sound has always been how I want the bass to sound. And also another influence was like mid 60s and on, you know, was Nils Henning Ørsted Pedersen. He's a Dane, but he come to Norway. He comes to Norway pretty often. I got to know him, and we spoke a lot over the years and so on. And his approach to the sound and the technique, not to talk about, you know, it's incredible what he played. And so that was also a big inspiration, you know, for how to, you know, just play the instrument.
Yeah. I mean, not that it should be easy, but it shouldn't be that hard to pull the strings You shouldn't have
No,
to use so much effort, right?
I mean, it shouldn't use any effort at all. It should,
Yeah.
I don't, I never get tired,
Yeah.
in my right or left hand, because it's only, it's a technique. It's not muscles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. You know, I was kind of lucky because I got to be part of the local rhythm section here in Oslo from like 68, 69, together with the drummer Jan Christensen. And we played a lot together. And then we played with the all touring musicians at the time. You
I was
know.
going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, you want to ask the question before I start?
No, I mean, go ahead. I figured that you did that, and I imagined that a lot of amazing musicians came through that you
Yeah,
got to play with.
they would come to Europe, you know, and play with the local. They played a week in Copenhagen with the Kennedy Trio, and they played in Oslo. They usually came for one night. Some of them played a week, but I was old enough when they had that open that club that worked all week. So I was more on those one-nighters. They came, you know, Johnny Griffin, Dexter Gordon, Hampton Hose, and I was lucky to play a bit with the Stan Getz, who went on tour and played, and Sonny Rollins, and so I played with so many of the Phil Woods. I remember was a very kind person, and I learned a lot from just being on the same stage as these masters, you know, and learn the tunes, and also what I'm thinking of is the presence they showed on stage, the energy, and being there in the moment. That's something that I always think back on, you know, how they would, you know, go for it, and it was like serious. There was no fooling around.
Yeah.
And that was very I think that was a good school, you know, to just be part of such such masters.
Yeah, and like you said, I bet none of them were going on stage like, oh, I don't want to do this tonight. It was just
Right.
like the energy, right?
Yeah. That and the focusing
Yeah.
on the music. So that was some years, end of the 60s and into the 70s. So that's about the school. I mean, I miss going to school, learning to read music, learning to, you know, maybe arrangements for big bands and stuff. I cannot do any of that. And I'm not a good reader. I never learned it as a kid, so I can handle it now. But but actually, the only gig I said no to is I arrived in New York, and I always stayed. I was several times in New York, beginning of the 70s, and I had been working with Sheila Jordan a lot. She came over here to Norway, and we did some music together. And she always invited me to stay at her apartment. So I came over like for a second, third time, something, and I had the bass actually with me. The first time I came, I borrowed the bass from Stanley Clarke. So we played like two basses in his apartment. It was just before he was famous, but you know, it was very nice. I borrowed the bass for 6 weeks from him. And the next time I came over, I walked into the apartment and the phone rang, and it was Stanley Clarke. And he said, Arild, can you sub for me with the Tad Jones Mel Lewis big band tonight at the Village Vanguard?
No.
I had heard that band so many times, and I knew how much was written out for the bass player for that band. It's not a gig you go to if you're not a good sight reader.
Yeah.
And actually, I said, Stanley, I can't do that. I can't read
no.
it. And he said, well, Arild, it's just the blues. I said, no. I know. I can't handle it, you know. And a couple of years later, I met Billy Harper, who played with that band very much. I met him at the festival in Norway, and we started to talk. And I told that story to him, and I said, if you can't sight read that stuff, you should be lucky you said no to that gig. Because can you imagine 15 hip New York musicians turn around and say, who's on bass tonight?
Yes.
When you fool around with those breaks that Tad Jones used to
use. Yeah, if you play tiptoe, 3 and 1.
I wouldn't have, and that's the only gig I said no to.
Wow.
In my life. Yeah, I take the challenge for a lot of things, and but that one was, and then I said to myself, shit, I didn't go to school and learn reading music. at that time. I mean, I was 25 or something. So so that was that.